Alright guys, we're finally back with part 2 of our Nintendo Direct discussion, or should I just say our Nintendo Direct discussion, because part 1 was literally just Smash Brothers, really the only thing any of us cared about at the time. However, looking back, rewatching the Direct, I realized, you know what, there is a lot more here we should still discuss. So we're back with, of course, John, Roger's Base, as well as Derek, as always, to cover everything else we didn't cover before, because we're too hyped up on Smash, of course. And there really is a lot to go over, because I think this was actually an extremely solid Direct, even putting aside Smash, which is a little bit difficult to do. But even putting aside Smash, I think we had a lot of good stuff here. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to get our overall impression. So let's go and start off with you, John, actually. What did you think overall of this Direct?
I was shocked at just how much stuff the 3DS had.
Right? It's still alive!
Right! And there's a game coming in 2019. Mario & Luigi is, for some reason, a 2019 game. Yes, it's going to keep kicking for forever, by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's never going to die, straight up.
And the Switch had tons of third-party games too, so that's a great surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Roger?
Yeah, kind of same for me. I think the thing that really blew me away was not necessarily the 3DS stuff. I was kind of surprised by that, especially with Luigi's Mansion. I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, with the third-party support, I mean, like, without question now, we've got a system that can play The World Ends With You, Okami, Dark Souls, Crash Bandicoot? Undertale? Bro, when they announced Undertale, that was probably my second biggest reaction of the whole Direct. I absolutely freaked, because what that means is that we may be seeing Undertale stuff in Smash Brothers.
Oh,
You're telling me
man.
there's a chance now, and that's what I want.
No one should ever tell you there's a chance, because you'll just run with
Yeah,
it.
seriously. If Undertale gets in, but not my girl Shantae, I'm going to be a little pissed.
Oh, man. But I mean, really too, even like the smaller stuff, like the Solaire amiibo, and just like all of the weird little announcements that were made in between. I thought it was a really solid Direct, like you guys said, even without Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And of course, the Splatoon stuff. I mean, did any of us really expect like a new campaign for Splatoon 2?
One that looks that good, too.
That was so good. That was probably my highlight, along with, honestly, it's weird to say this. Of course, this is beyond Smash. We're not discounting Smash at this point.
Sure.
I was surprised how invested I got into their little presentation about Mario Tennis Aces.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that game looks amazing.
I've not played a Mario Tennis game before, but I'm looking at this. It's like, this seems smartly designed, pretty fun, lots of ideas, lots of strategies. Like, okay, Nintendo, definitely better than Ultra Smash. Thank you.
So
That's not hard.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
not.
true.
So you know what? Let's just go and pick it up there. Let's dive into Mario Tennis, because that was the focus of this Direct until Smash Brothers completely took over and dominated everything. But that did seem to be like that had the chunkiest runtime, besides maybe Splatoon 2. They're probably pretty close. And yeah, after the initial trailer for Mario Tennis Aces, I was excited. I'm like, oh, that actually looks like a legit good game. But the more I looked at it, the more I started getting a little bit concerned with how the main new arena is a reskin of the Wii U one. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I can see this going either way. But they brought me back with the latest look at it here. I think it looks really good. They're adding a ton of gameplay elements, such as with the zone system, where you have like zone shots and zone speed. Now, I am still a little bit hesitant, because my first reaction is seeing the zone shot where you aim exactly where you want to hit the ball in first person. I'm like, oh, that reminds me a little bit of Mario Strikers Charged, where you had that really gimmicky pointing control minigame where you had to block the balls. But I do think this does seem like it's way better thought out, especially with how it's actually built into the gameplay around everything else, whereas it felt like a minigame in Charged, even though it wasn't. So yeah, the gameplay here, like, it really seems like they took a lot of feedback to heart, and I saw like little glimpses of Mario Power Tennis in there as well, like with the special shots it can do, but it seems like even more thought out here, because in those it was kind of like an instant win, unless your opponent also had their own special shot in which everyone would just like launch, one of their own for like a half an hour replay of like these cutscenes. What I'm saying here is like a really well thought out system from the looks of it. So, are you guys as excited as I am for the new gameplay elements?
Yeah, I'm just excited that Chain Chomp's a playable
Chain
character.
Chomp!
Yeah, exactly. That's the best thing.
I don't know why I waste all that time talking about the gameplay. Chain Chomp's where it's at. He's holding his racket in his mouth.
But even with the gameplay, I think like the fact, because we brought this up in the last discussion, I remember about Mario Tennis, with like if we would be able to play with those story mode courses in the main game. And we can clearly see like that one story mode course that's inside of the forest is actually a regular course in multiplayer. So they have like actual other courts now. There's other characters. You've got like everything in this game just looks polished to a T. I love the new where you have the power shots and you can kind of like aim where they're going to go, or like how long you want to hit it or where you're going to hit it, whether it's like knocking the racket out of somebody's hand or, trying to make a point. I just think it looks really fun and it looks strategic and I can't wait for it. And that's surprising.
It has a risk versus reward mechanic now. With
Yeah.
it's just a really smart implementation.
I mean, what's also kind of genius about all those different shots and what you do with them is that it's all fed off a meter, and you got to sort of wisely learn how to use your meter, what works best at the time. And it almost kind of reminded me of a fighting game, how you balance your special meter in those type of games and figuring out what works best when. And I like that extra element to it that just gives it that little bit of extra identity and ideas to it. So you can try to win normally, or you can just try to attack your opponent and break the damn racket, which I thought was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I do wish they showed the stages a bit more, because in the 5 minutes or so we saw primarily the new sort of neon one, which we've seen quite a lot, and then we saw the one from Ultra Smash, as in at daytime.
Right.
So those two are shown quite a lot, and they're pretty much the same stage as well. But at the end, we got like a nice little view of maybe 4 different stages or so. There was quite a lot towards the end. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, one of them has the conch doors from 3D World as well, I noticed.
Right, yeah. So I kind of just wish they focused on that a little bit more, because they went into the mechanics in quite a lot of depth, which makes sense because we really didn't know anything about them. But yeah, I would like to see a bit more, maybe more of the story, which we haven't really seen outside of the debut. And I think they said 15 characters, which kind of seems a little bit on the small side, maybe.
Well, I think they said more than 15 characters, but then they literally showed 15 of them. But they also did say you could unlock new characters by playing the online tournaments, I believe, or you would unlock characters that way by playing online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and showed a Koopa Troopa.
Right.
Yeah, they showed Koopa Troopa. I'm wondering though how many of those characters they're going to add, because like one that I thought of while we were just watching the rest of this direct, because they ended up having like the 3DS and Switch version of Treasure Tracker. I was sitting there going, man, Captain Toad's got to be in Mario Tennis.
Right?
Can he leap? Because he can't jump.
He doesn't need to. He can just run around the stage. That's fine. He could summon his cart or something when he's making a jump. Bowser Jr. is inside of his clown car, so there's no reason
True.
that Toad can't be in a minecart.
Hey, and where's my girl Pauline? Where's she at? Why
Yeah,
isn't she
well,
here?
she'll
Yeah,
probably
that's
be
true.
unlockable. Yeah.
Yeah, she better be. She better
Yeah.
be. I did like how when they mentioned the Align mode, they specifically mentioned you can now play with friends, which was something you couldn't do in the original game for
That's
whatever
a
reason.
feature now, apparently.
I am actually legit excited for a Camelot sports game again. That's something I can't really say I've been recently at all. I think I may have had some hope for Ultra Smash, but which was quickly dashed. But this one looks like they're actually doing it right. They're actually doing it right by Mario Tennis. So yeah, and that comes out on
June 22nd, yes.
Yeah, so unfortunately, right after E3 or shortly after E3, I was hoping it'll be a little bit sooner, but yeah.
And there's going to be a online test mode as well, like similar to ARMS and Splatoon.
Still a good idea. Get people to play the game. Try it out. I mean, it's worked for Splatoon and ARMS, so go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I love that Nintendo's really embracing these beta tests or network tests, whatever you want to call it, these demos. Like, we've seen more of this from Nintendo in the past year than we have ever before combined, I think. So that is pretty
without
great.
a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on, though, my biggest disappointment about seeing all this is like we got, Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Waluigi and all the in actual tennis outfits, and I loved it. And I was looking over at Bowser, and he's not wearing anything. Like, come on! I know he can wear clothes. Where's his tennis outfit at?
Right. Agreed.
I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed. I don't know if I'll pick up the game because of that.
Yeah, Chain Shop.
that's a good
I
reason.
really think Chain Shop should have a tennis visor. So 0 out of 10 will not buy.
You're right. Oh man, we're ruining it. Okay, we gotta move on before we completely ruin this game. So I'll just go in order. Like let's just talk about what excites us. So for me,
Sure.
next, probably right behind Splatoon 2, or sorry, right, why I just gave it away. Right behind Smash Brothers was Splatoon 2. They announced a 3.0 update, which includes like a bunch of new gear and new stages and whatnot. The Woohoo World stage in particular looks pretty cool with like the whole theme park aesthetic with like a Ferris wheel in the background. But of course the main thing here, which is coming out this summer, is the announcement of the Octo expansions. Or Octo expansion, I think is what they're calling it. For $20, a brand new hefty expansion they're calling it. Like a brand new hefty single player campaign, which looks freaking amazing. I absolutely adored how they presented this trailer. Like with her walking down, the Octoling walking down like the subway car. Like just, I thought that was fantastic. Like what a unique way of presenting this new content. It really makes it look very different from the main game. Like, I wish this actually would have been in the main, like, would have been in Splatoon 2.
Right?
Like, has
Yeah,
Splatoon,
oh yeah.
has Splatoon 2 come out like this, man, I think I would have been way more excited for that game than I was at the time. But this looks fantastic. Like, I mean, I don't want to say I'll happily spend $20 on it because I wish it had been in the main game again. But I think for what it looks like, I think that's a fair price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they said 8 worlds or
I think
something like that.
80, I thought this said 80 test facilities or something. Maybe it was 8. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
80
but
would be
you know,
a
they're-
lot.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
they would. They're really driving home the whole 8 aspect of it. Like, this is Agent 8 and all that. What's really cool, though, is just they're like, it is its own hub, own characters. Like, we're getting new stuff. Pearl and Marina have a point, which is great, because they kind of like, oh, it's cool that they're hosts, but they're not really doing anything, so it kind of loses the same effect that you had for Callie and Marie. And what's also really great is that there was all this talk in Splatoon 2 during its main campaign was that Captain Cuttlefish is off doing something with Agent 3. And you can spot both Captain Cuttlefish and Agent 3 in this game. And that's like so brilliant. It's like you can actually, it's this sort of side story seeing what's going on. And it has this darker edge to it. And maybe this is where we're going to get our actual really awesome final boss.
Well, I love that. I don't know if it's like a crab or a crawfish or whatever that thing is near the ending. When, like, the Octoling is walking through the train and all the different levels of the train, and then finally she's in, like, the last car and there's some, like, blue creature sitting there. I'm wondering if that's, like, the main antagonist of this new story mode.
Maybe. I love that scene.
He looks like a cool, like, yeah, he looks like a mafia crawfish. I don't know, he looks awesome.
Yeah, we had the Mafia Crawfish, and then we had the Mafia Panther in the Dylan's Rolling Western game. So.
Right.
There's a theme. So how do you guys feel about Splatoon having paid DLC? 'Cause this is a game that's been known to just sort of give away free content updates, so this kind of goes against its entire structure up until now.
I mean, I think it's done almost right. I mean, $20 might seem steep to some people. We'll have to see exactly how expansive this single-player campaign is. But, I mean, just the fact that it is all focused on single-player outside of the fact that completing it gets you Octolinks to play in the multiplayer makes sense to me. Like, if you only care about the multiplayer, you don't really need to pay for this unless you really want those Octolinks. And I don't really blame you because I love their designs.
They look really good.
Oh my god, like that alone almost makes me want to pay for it because I love the Octolink designs. It's so cool to have that variation, but I like how they structured it. It is not the multiplayer stuff is obviously still all free. You don't have to pay for it if you don't want, and you can still get the full enjoyment out of it. And they're still offering, like, the fact that we're getting 3 new stages. We're still getting a ton of updates.
The only thing that's not free,
Yeah.
Derek, is if you want to play as an Octoling online, which you have to beat the campaign for, I believe.
Yeah, but at least you get gameplay. It's not just the unlocks. So
Yeah, no, that's true. I totally agree.
Makes it a
No.
lot nicer.
I'm totally fine with this.
I wonder if Octolings will have their very own gear, because their heads will probably clip through a lot of the hats that are made for Inklings.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I could see them coming up with some unique merchandise to
Yeah,
represent the
and
Octoling.
they did say, too, that there was, like, a lot of new gear that they were going to be adding, so I just assumed that all that gear was going to be specific to the Octolings. But I
That
could be
makes
wrong.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I thought there was always more potential in Splatoon's mechanics for the single player. I didn't think Splatoon 2 quite delivered on that, and it looks like this might finally. So again, I wish we're part of the main game, but I think the main game itself already justifies its value in terms of
Yeah.
at least the multiplayer. So I'm totally fine spending $20 more for what looks to be an awesome, awesome campaign.
And this is something that we haven't talked about yet, because, like, I don't think any of us are at that point. Maybe we are. I'm not really sure. I shouldn't speak for everybody. But that new X rank for people who are past
Oh, yeah.
S+, like, I don't know a single person who is at max rank right now, so I don't know who this really appeals to. But, hey, cool on them for upping the... I wouldn't call it, like, a rank cap, but I guess that's what you should call it. Yeah, X rank. Very, very bizarre. Was not expecting
Yeah.
that at all.
It is interesting. I mean, the thing is this single player DLC is really what kicks up Splatoon 2 for me so much more because, you know, it's cool that all this multiplayer stuff is in there, but I suck at the multiplayer. Like, the people are so good nowadays that I just cannot it feels like I can't break in. It gets frustrating. Like, it's cool that all this stuff is cool, but I got other options now. But I will totally come back to this game for single player content. And I will say, I think we all agreed even before we started recording, that new song is amazing.
It's great.
Oh,
So
it's
good.
fantastic. Yeah.
I was watching right before this discussion. It's so catchy. Like it's I was gonna say enchanting, entrancing, or put me into a trance. I don't know. It's late. It's been a long day.
Well, I love too that the logo reminds me of like those '80s memes that have been going on for a while. Like since Drive came out, it's got that cool like retro feel to it. It's purple and glowing. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. So what do we want to move on to next?
I want to talk about a certain amiibo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
Alright,
go
let's
to
do
next.
it.
So, but you go ahead, John.
Alright, so I'm a massive Dark Souls fan, and I was just bursting out in laughter when they announced the Solaire amiibo for Dark Souls Remastered. I think the only function it has, though, is it does the Praise the Sun emote when you tap it. So I guess that's just a nice little quick way of accessing that. But this is one of the very first third-party amiibo we've seen since Shovel Knight, I think. So that's awesome to have this whole new line open to non-Nintendo characters. So I kind of just want to know your guys' reaction when you saw the Solaire amiibo announced in this direct.
It's crazy, right? Because amiibo, when you think of amiibo, like, I mean, they're built for kids, right?
Sure,
so they're all,
sure.
like,
Right.
bright, colorful cartoon characters, and yet here we have this M-rated character now, right? Like, I kind of like that juxtaposition a little bit.
Yeah. My thought immediately, I said this before we ended up seeing the reveal later in the Direct, but I mentioned this during like my full reaction to the Direct. I was like, wow, maybe they're going to put Solaire in Smash Bros. Whenever it comes to Switch, and then later on we see Smash. So who knows? I mean, like, I always kind of feel like if there's a third-party character, and this even goes to like the Shovel Knight characters, I don't know, I feel like if they have their own dedicated amiibo, there might be a better chance for them to show up in other games. Maybe not necessarily Smash Brothers, but like if Namco ends up making another game in the future, they might use the Solaire amiibo and like have some type of added functionality. Because we even saw during this stream, they had like, Little Nightmares is coming to Switch. And if you tap the Pac-Man amiibo, it creates like a Pac-Man costume or something for the character.
Nice.
So I think that's kind of neat. Yeah, and I would love to see stuff like that in future Namco games.
If you tap Solaire in Mario Maker, that's what I
The new Mario Maker. Oh my god, that'd be so good.
Oh, man.
Oh, it would be. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, wow, I could just imagine all the Dark Souls players needing to get that. Doesn't even matter if they ever pick up the Switch version. That thing is going to sell like hotcakes because everybody else is going to get it, like even if they don't have a Switch. And it just is just that little extra there. It's just like, wow, you went that extra step that I did not expect. And I mean, I've had Dark Souls on PS3 for a while. I just never had a chance to sit down and play it. I got it for cheap, and I was like, okay, well, I'll get this for eventually playing it. And now I'm seeing it on Switch. I'm like, man, I almost wonder if I want to play this on here, just because convenience of going around. And I don't know. I'm very intrigued by Dark Souls.
Well, I've put about, I think, maybe 150 hours into the PS3 version, so I've played it quite a bit. But looking at it as a remaster, it looks okay. The texture work seems a bit better, but apart from that, it kind of looks the same, which I guess is to be expected for the Switch port. I'm not sure if the other versions are going to be any more impressive, but it really is just cool to have this on a handheld, though. That's the huge selling point of the Switch version of Dark Souls. It kind of looks the same as it did on PS3, with a little bit better around the edges. Yeah, it's just great to have this on a handheld, and finally we can pause the game by putting it in standby, so that's kind of a cool thing, too.
Yeah, I think that's a selling point of a lot of these third-party games, and we saw even more support here with the announcement of Okami HD, the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and the South Park The Fractured Butthole, which, by the way, I loved. You could almost tell how carefully the announcer was saying that in the Direct.
Yeah.
Making sure there's just a long enough pause there. And like, for me personally, like, seeing Crash Bandicoot come to a Nintendo platform, even the announcer seemed surprised by it, saying something like, the impossible is now possible or something. I love that. Like, these are games I never really had much of a chance to play too much of back in the day, and it'll be fun to actually catch up, especially ones that look as good as they do now in HD. And yeah, being able to play them on the portable Nintendo platform is kind of awesome.
If screens from this Direct leaked, I would have called them fake. Like, if we saw a screen of the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and Little Nightmares and all of that, I've just gone, that's fake. That's no way it's going to be a Nintendo Direct, but here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have said that. I would have said that maybe for Undertale, but I think we knew kind of about Crash. Didn't that leak like a couple months ago?
It did leak a little bit.
Yeah. So I figured, I expected Crash. Undertale was the thing that I saw that, and I just freaked out, because I knew it was obviously recently released on PS4. They had like a physical version and stuff, but just the idea of having Undertale on Nintendo, and knowing that Toby Fox's inspirations for that game came from Earthbound, it just feels right. That's one of those third-party games that when I think about it, it's like, oh man, that is so perfect for a Nintendo platform because it's so clearly like based on and referencing, you know, all these previous Nintendo classics. So it feels right to have Undertale here.
And for a similar reason, Okami HD, which of course was on the Wii before it as well, after the PS2. But yeah, that game is that was based on, or inspired by, rather I should say, inspired by Zelda. And with it being such a lengthy adventure too, and with gamers seemingly increasingly have less and less time, a portable platform again is perfect for it. So it can kind of fit in whenever you have the chance to.
Yeah.
And I love how they actually took advantage of the features of the Switch for this version. Like you can use the touchscreen and use that for your brush strokes, or you can use the Joy-Con. Like I did not expect them to actually use the Joy-Con for that sort of thing, even though it makes complete sense because of the Wii version. Although I do find it kind of funny that I just recently picked up the Okami HD on PS4. I was like,
oh no!
I haven't. Like I was like, man, I love this game. I haven't picked it up in a while. I should play it again. Yeah, let's go. Hey, $20, I'll pick it up. Why not? And then it was like, and then this hits. I'm like, dang it.
I mean, I thought it was too late for this version because it came out on PS4 and Xbox One only November, December, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this opened up the floodgates for more Capcom remasters, particularly Resident Evil 4. Where's that?
Where is that? Oh man, I know the Switch will not be complete as a platform until it gets Resident Evil 4. So that needs to happen.
I mean, it's getting 19 Mega Man games. Isn't that enough for you for Capcom?
That's true. Anyways, let's go and move on to whatever we want. I think I'll go with what I thought was surprising. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker coming to not just the Switch, but the 3DS as well. It'll take advantage of the touchscreen controls on both, I believe, or if you're playing in dock mode on the Switch, it'll take advantage of the Joy-Con's pointer functionality. And on the 3DS, it'll actually have 3D. They made sure to note it'll actually have 3D, which is kind of shocking for a 3DS game these days. But most importantly, guys, it's going to have a new Donk City level, which looks fantastic, plus a few more Odyssey Kingdoms, apparently.
I don't think they said if New Donk's going to be on the 3DS or not. I mean, I assume it is, but I don't think they particularly went out and said it.
Did they specify it was a Switch only?
I don't know, but...
No, they definitely said... I thought they said Switch and 3DS, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah,
okay.
I think it's on
I wasn't
both.
sure if that was going to be like a Switch exclusive, because the assets are already there on the Switch or not.
That's true. I mean, that's... Well, but they already have to lower, downgrade everything else from the game from the Wii U. So
that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like we're gonna have other kingdoms as well. They just only showed New Donk, which actually was. I feel like I had this idea before. If Captain Toad ever came to the Switch, make it a sequel or something like that, where it shows how he got to each of the locations in the main game of Mario Odyssey, and it's like they are kind of taking that idea, which is cool.
Yeah. One thing I really like is, in the Wii U version, you had to use gyro all the time. And all of these scenes seem pretty steady, which makes me think that you can turn the gyro sensor off and just turn with the analog stick. Because I gotta say, that was a flaw for me in the Wii U Captain Toad.
Oh, that's a good one, right, because if you made any slight adjustment, it would kind of screw up the camera. So,
right.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. That would make a lot of sense.
I still just think it's so funny that we got this announcement right after you made that video about games coming to the Switch that are going to be
right. This is on our lower side, though. I thought because touchscreen isn't native in dock mode that they wouldn't put Captain Toad on, but here we are.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of 3DS games or 3DS announcements, we actually got quite a few here. We got WarioWare Gold, Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, which was technically announced for Japan beforehand, but this is the first American release we found out about. Mario & Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story, plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey, which is an update of the original DS game. And then Luigi's Mansion 3DS, which is a remake of the GameCube original. So, yeah, I mean, very clearly, as I said at the start, the 3DS is not dead. Nintendo is not kidding about supporting this platform. It seems like they're going to keep supporting it probably well beyond the Switch is even dead at this point. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see that. Like, I do want to play these games. At the same time, it's like, man, I wish these were coming to the Switch. Especially in the case of Luigi's Mansion, which honestly looks like a downgrade from the original. Like, that game was like, it was kind of a technical showcase for the GameCube. And now it looks like... it looks like Dark Moon with the assets of the original game. Which, I mean, it'll be fun. And the fact, what is kind of cool about it is the fact that the Luigi's Mansion is built with 3D in mind originally as like a Like that was one idea they had for the game with some kind of like GameCube add-on. I forget all the details. So now they can actually realize that. So that's cool. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, I kind of wish this was in full HD on the Switch.
That's the one I saw, like, they were going through the 3DS games. I'm like, okay, that's cool. WarioWare Gold, that makes sense on the 3DS. I'm not too upset about that. I'm sure we'll eventually get a WarioWare on Switch at some point. Bowser's Inside Story, we just did that with Superstar Saga. Cool. But as soon as I saw Luigi's Mansion 3DS, it's like, ooh, that one hurts. That's the one that people are going to be especially upset about, that it's not on the Switch.
Oh, yeah. I would have loved an HD remake of Luigi's Mansion. I mean, like, I love the original game, and I'm actually somebody who liked Dark Moon. I know Dark Moon, some people didn't like.
I do too. I actually prefer Dark Moon.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Dark Moon. But that, to me, like, I remember watching the Direct earlier today and being like, man, I would be okay with this if there was like a Luigi's Mansion game for Switch, but because there's not, it's just going to be on 3DS. I mean, I'm happy for people who are going to get to play it for the first time, but like, I still have my GameCube. I think I'm probably just going to stick to that version and wait until they make an eventual third game for Switch or something like that.
Right.
Going back to Bowser's Inside Story a second, I looked at Bowser Jr.'s Journey, and I just kind of thought, I don't want to play that. I didn't really feel anything for the Superstar Saga side mode.
Right.
This looks exactly the same.
Which was
I don't
garbage
wanna play that again.
originally, based on my playtime with it.
I mean, it was the thing where they had strategies involved, but it still devolved into the same stuff, and I'm like, no, guys, come on, why are you doing this? Like, I know it's cool. Like, the side stories you get from it are just as entertaining as the main game. Like, it's cool to get all those little references and seeing what's happening behind the scenes and all that good stuff. But the gameplay to get that sucks.
Tedious,
it's just not fun. It's tedious. That's probably the better way to put it. Although I probably got my biggest struggle from Bowser's Inside Story for two reasons. One, it's a 2019 game, which wow, for 3DS.
That's,
I'm gonna guess
almost a year away.
Early 2019, but yeah. I'm amazed that they announced this early.
They didn't need to either. Like, I mean, the only reason I could think why is because they just wanted to demonstrate that they are supporting the 3DS for at least the next year. So that way you can buy it and rest assured there will still be games coming to it. That has to be the only reason. Because this is a game they probably should have saved for later when they didn't have a Smash game coming and thrown it in a later Direct, you know?
Yeah. The other thought I had was poor Partners in Time.
No, not Poor Partners in Time. It's getting exactly what that terrible game deserves.
But isn't it a game that has issues a better candidate for a remake where you can improve things than...
There are some games that are just so fundamentally broken, Derek, you can't fix them, like Mario Sunshine.
I'm going to pretend you didn't say that. We're just going to move on.
The comment section is going to be so angry at you now.
I know,
Andre.
it's okay, I'm used to it.
They should be used to it by now, the way he does, the way he talks.
But I will say, putting aside the side story because you can really ignore that, Bowser's Inside Story was fantastic. It to me, that and the original Superstar Saga were and are the two best Mario and Luigi games. And it's cool to see it coming back and more people being able to experience it. I'm still not sure if I prefer this art style to the original, which had more of a hand-drawn look. I think they're both hand-drawn, but the original had a little bit more of a distinctive look to it, I think. But I still think this looks great, and yeah, it was a really funny game originally, so, people should look forward to being able to play it if they haven't played it before. Particularly being able to see those giant Bowser battles come back, where he's like fighting castles and everything. I'm looking forward to it, so... Yeah.
It's actually kind of weird, and I've just thought about this. Other than Partners in Time, the entire Mario and Luigi series can be played on the 3DS.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. That is fun. That's pretty wild. Yeah, then we had WarioWare Gold, which I kind of already touched on, but WarioWare did start on handheld systems. It started on the original GBA, and this one looks like it's a kind of an upgraded version of that. This one includes 300 micro games, including new and old games, it said, and it sounds like it's coming from across the series, including like touch-controlled mini games probably from WarioWare Touched, and then also some from Twisted because it has tilt controls too. But yeah, this just looks like a good, fun time. I've always liked WarioWare games. I'm looking forward to being able to play a few more of them.
It reminds me a lot of Rhythm Heaven Megamix, which came out last year, I believe. Yeah, so it's kind of like a compilation of all these other WarioWare games, and I think they said it has its own new mini games too. So that's going to be really cool to see, and especially those two series have been really underrepresented over the last generation. So it's great to see them finally come back, even if it's just a compilation. But a compilation will go on to bigger and better things, so it's great to finally have WarioWare back on a modern Nintendo console.
True that.
Going kind of off this, you notice that most of the games that we talked about, other than Mario Tennis, are mostly ports. There's a lot of ports in here, and the only original games we have that are coming are Sushi Striker, Octopath Traveler, and Travis Strikes Again.
Actually, there was
Smash
one
Brothers.
more. And Smash, of course. But there was one more in the Japanese Direct that I figure we probably wouldn't talk about unless I brought it up. And that is the Taiko Drum Master game that's coming for Nintendo Switch. I am a
that's
huge
perfect.
fan of that series. I love that series. It's one of my favorite rhythm series. And not only did they announce that it's coming to Switch this year, they also showed off that it's going to include Mario Odyssey and Splatoon 2 music, which I think is really neat. So if you haven't checked out that trailer yet, go check the Japanese Nintendo page. And the great thing about the Switch is it's region-free, so if you have a PayPal account, you could actually download it right off the Japanese eShop. And considering it's a rhythm game, it doesn't matter what language it's in. It's just you beat with the two Joy-Cons
perfect.
and you're good to go. Yeah,
I could really take advantage of the HD Rumble.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to Octopath Traveler a moment, we've dropped the project's subtitle. It's now just Octopath Traveler. I think that's the first time they've addressed it as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm honestly not surprised. I think it just got everybody's head about Project Octopath Traveler. It makes no sense to change that title. That's what people recognize it as. So I'm not too shocked about that being the final title.
I wasn't blown away by the presentation for this one, but I loved the demo so much. It was such a good demo. So I'm sold on the game anyway, but I can't say this presentation did all that much for me.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Like, the two characters looked interesting, and I liked how you can combine the different classes and get new things and get new combinations and sort of expand upon the battle system. But I've been sold on this game ever since the demo, so...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to convince me anymore. Although I will say the special edition they showed, that is tempting. If only for the pop-up book, because that is a brilliant piece of extra, like, you don't really see that too often, and it's the perfect game for that idea.
I like how the box art has this sort of blank black background too. It's a nice sort of contrast to the white background of Final Fantasy. And this is kind of a callback to Final Fantasy too, so it's great to see this this parallel to those games.
The odd thing is, though, I meant to mention this back with Captain Toad, because those two games are coming out the same day. Octopath Traveler and Captain Toad are both releasing July 13th.
Oh, weird.
Oh, wow.
That's weird.
Yeah, I'm surprised they did that. There's a lot of weird ones. Like, we got the release date for Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, which is actually in May. But it comes out May 18th, a week before Dark Souls.
Well,
right, and what's Tropical Freeze? That's in May as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, so we do have two
Well,
May
to be
titles,
fair,
yeah.
I mean, those are the 3 ports. They're not necessarily new games.
True.
There's new aspects
3 good
to them.
ports, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
3
saying
very
they're
good
bad
ports.
games. I'm just saying that, like, to be fair, they are ports.
Right, that's
Right,
true. Yeah,
yeah.
it's not like entirely new things, although
Yeah.
for many people they might be.
But also, another thing they announced in the Japanese Direct, too, that we haven't talked about, that was announced for April, and again, it's region-free, so you could probably find a way around it and play it, is Phantasy Star Online 2 is coming to the Switch. It's coming out on April 4th, and the trailer that was in the Japanese Direct showed off a Link costume, a Champion Link costume for the characters, which looked really weird. It was like Link was dancing around with the emotes from the game and attacking things with the Master Sword. And I actually never played the second game, but it looks really fun. And if there's some way like that I could actually play it online, or there's a workaround, like, I'm going to do it.
I'm pretty sure people struggle to get on Phantasy Star Online from outside of Japan. I'm not entirely sure how you do it, but I know people complain that it's quite difficult to do so. I like how they're doing more with Breath of the Wild Link, though. He's been in a few things now. You know, we have him in Hyrule Warriors, we have him in this.
Smash Brothers.
Well, yeah, Smash Bros. I think he may have appeared in Monster Hunter... I'm probably making this up. It might have been in Monster Hunter Stories. I can't quite remember if that's true or
Skyrim.
not. Oh, Skyrim, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of funny how that took over the usual green tunic that we're so used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be weird to see the Green Tunic Link again at this point.
Yeah.
People have almost forgotten about him. Yeah, Breath of the Wild Link took over, and I mean, it makes sense. Like that game really resonated with a ton of people. Probably brought a ton of new people into the series for the first time.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see them embrace it. I'm happy for that. So that's cool. For once, we actually have a Link, or not once, but like for the first time in a while, we have a Link that looks truly distinct from the others. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sushi Striker.
I was just going to go on to that, exactly. So that was technically leaked a day earlier from some retailer listing in Japan, but we got a release date of June 8th for not just a 3DS, but the Nintendo Switch as well. We didn't know that was coming until that leak. So yeah, that's kind of cool, even if I still don't fully understand what's happening when I see the game. But it looks like it might be fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same view. I don't really get it, but it looks fun.
Yeah, right?
It's definitely one of those you kind of have to play to understand, and
Yeah.
it's like, teach me, and maybe I'll know what's going on, because it seems very busy. But then I'm also kind of surprised about the production values, because they actually have animated cutscenes to tell this sushi story. Okay, sure. And of all things, this got a Switch port and the 3DS version as well. Not Luigi's Mansion, Sushi Striker.
I know. I will say real quick, just to say something good about Luigi's Mansion, tying back to the 3D. I think that game will look really good, at least for the 3D, because of it being like, it's like a diorama. Like, you are literally looking into this house. So that might be kind of fun to like relive it or re-experience it in that manner. In that manner, get it?
But
Yep. Another thing we haven't touched on, though, is how, I guess like with Splatoon 2, how Nintendo's still updating their current games. They're updating games that haven't even come out yet, because they announced that Kirby Star Allies is getting a free update on March 28th, only, a week or two after it comes out. What they're calling the Dream Friends, where you get Kirby's classic friends from like Dreamland 2, or from Kirby's Return to Dreamland, among other games. So that's kind of neat, even if I'm not sure how much of an actual like impact they'll have on the gameplay, because it seems like they'll be pretty similar overall, right?
Here's the thing. The animal buddies are just cool because everybody loves the animal buddies, and it's great to have them back. Gooey was your partner in Dreamland 3. That's awesome for Gooey fans, even though he's always looked weird to me. Marx is the big one to me, because Marx has never been playable before. And, well, you've played Superstar, Andre, so you know the story behind Marx and what that's all about. So it is surreal to see him as a playable character in this.
Oh, I actually don't remember. Man, I must be missing out on the lore.
Oh, really?
The lore of Marx.
Marx is basically the true villain of Superstar, so...
God, I remember that. I need to... Wow.
Yeah, because he looks kind of different. He's like smaller and cutesy in this version. He's not like the giant da dun dun da dun 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 dun
and that crazy scream.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool to see him in it. The one thing I was kind of disappointed about, and I mentioned this in my live reaction, was I wish we would have seen Adeline and Ribbon from Kirby 64. I love the two of them. Adeline in particular, I would have really liked to see.
Same here, especially since they already have the artist ability. I was
That's
so
what I was
on
thinking.
that. And, I've known about this, since I had the preview version, I've known about DDD, Meta Knight, and Bandana D for a while. They're in the game right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's cool. You have a way of reenacting Return to Dreamland if you so want. You don't want to use the other characters. I'm like, that's cool. And to bring it in even more, I thought that was a really nice touch. Especially free. So.
Yeah.
That's the best part. Yeah, no, that's cool. It's awesome seeing Nintendo. Like, it is really weird to think when it wasn't that long ago when Nintendo really turned their nose up at DLC in any form, and now look at them. They've just fully embraced it. So that's cool. Like, whether in free updates or paid DLC, like this free or this Splatoon 2 expansion pack is pretty noteworthy for them. I don't think anyone else is too excited for it, but I was a big fan of Dylan's Rolling Western. So seeing what they showed off of this new one, being Dylan's Dead Heatbreakers, actually looks pretty cool, even if I'm not completely sold on the whole turning your friend's Miis into an animal type thing, but otherwise it looks fun.
I've never played the Dylan series, so he must be popular because he's gotten a bunch of games, but I've just never tried them. So
they're definitely fun games.
Connection.
Yeah, they are. Like, it's a really cool mixture of like action and tower defense, I think. So, and it looks like they're really going kind of all out with this one, even including what appear to be mini games. I'm not quite sure how those work, but yeah, it looks fun. So,
now, do you guys think Travis Strikes Again looks fun? Because that is the first time we've seen gameplay.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure what to make of it, really. It's very different to the previous two games, which I guess we should have expected, going by what they said so far. We didn't really see all that much from indie crossovers, which was kind of suggested from previous interviews. But I do like the look of it. I think it looks really interesting. It's a very nice little Suda51 indie game. Yeah, I like the look of it a lot, but I want to see more.
I get the vibe of No More Heroes looking at this. It's definitely less bloody, but they can get away with that because it's in a game and you're fighting glitches or whatever. But as soon as they started showing the designs of the bosses, I'm like, yep, that's No More Heroes.
Yep.
That's where I felt the pedigree of the series much more than anything else, because it is a little weird to be fighting it from top down perspective, but it seems like each game you go into has sort of its own genre, and it kind of changes how the game actually plays. So I'm very curious about that one.
Yeah, I will say, based on our interview with the creator back at, was it GDC last year? Almost a year ago now. I was a little bit concerned with the it just in terms of like how the video games are going to tie in, because the way he made it sound like it almost sounded like the video games were incidental to the gameplay. Like, it didn't sound like they were gonna have too much of an impact. But seeing this here, I was actually pretty impressed with it. I'm like, oh, you actually can see how each game, I think, looks, or each stage, I guess, does look very different from the next. Like, one in particular looked like a, I was gonna say, like, you know, like an old school top-down game, but I think it's specifically based on, what's that Miami game called?
Hotline Miami?
Yeah, Hotline Miami, right? So, yeah, I think it looks neat. Like, I want to check it out as one, even as one who didn't play much of the original Wii version, so.
It's actually kind of weird we're not getting a port of those.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
it is. There's a PS3 version of the first No More Heroes, so there is a HD version out there, so it makes sense to bring it to Switch.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered the main points here, so anything else you guys want to bring up, or overall thoughts on this Nintendo Direct in general?
Well, that's what was there. We haven't talked about what wasn't there.
Ooh, there we go.
Ooh, true.
Because I'm sure Roger's just like me.
Yeah.
Where the heck's Fire Emblem Switch?
Right.
I think the more I thought about it, I think it makes sense that it wasn't here. Because I think they knew that it would have gotten overshadowed by Smash. I think everything in this Direct, beyond the 3DS stuff, well, even the 3DS stuff, like, most of the announcements, while they were cool, were either things we already knew about, like Octopath or Mario Tennis, or they were new ports, things like Treasure Tracker, and Undertale, and Okami, and Crash, and Luigi's Mansion even, which are, like, all cool announcements, but at the same time, it's like there was nothing here where, like, it really would have mattered, like, any big blowout of some new game beyond Smash Brothers. And so I do think it was actually smart that they did that during this Direct, because I think ultimately, like, if July is Octopath Traveler and June is Mario Tennis and all these other games that they're showing are coming out, like, around E3 time or right beforehand, even, like, some of these other ports, then realistically, I think, like, we could see Fire Emblem at E3 along with the big blowout of Smash Brothers, and that makes a lot of sense for then the holidays. Fire Emblem could sort of fit that, like, that JRPG, strategy, RPG lover niche that Xenoblade did at the end of the year, and then the big game for everybody is kind of like how Mario Odyssey was last year's Smash Brothers.
I can see that. That makes a lot of sense to me, and yeah, you definitely don't want to get overshadowed. Like, I'm looking at the release dates here, and most of these games come out by the summer. Like, WarioWare Gold is the latest we have as a confirmed release, but the others are either summer 2018 or just 2018 in general, with Bowser's Inside Story being the exception. So that does seem to be the range here. It's just slightly into summer to give you an idea of what we have to expect in those coming months, and of course E3 will finish us off for the rest of the year.
Definitely.
And to have that as for Fire Emblem makes a lot of sense, and I'm totally down with that, because have less of a wait between announcement and release, I'm down for.
Oh yeah,
we're even getting that with Smash Brothers, which is on an unprecedented release schedule from announcement to release. It's going to be what, barely 6 months. So
well, they announced Melee at E3.
Besides Melee, which I even tweeted out.
Yeah.
That was also right from E3 to December, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's awesome. I like that. The less time I have to wait. Well, I kind of like it. I do like weekly discussions as well. So that means we may have less of them this year if we had them at all, if they do the slow trickle of news or not. So at least though, the good thing though about this is that they do those daily updates, which I hope they do. Everyone's going to be pretty good, I think. Whereas at times they run out of steam with the other ones, because they had they had to cover hundreds of days,
sure.
And there's only so much content for that. So
yeah, we'll find out. The other thing that was weird that it wasn't here was Yoshi. But again, maybe again, if they wanted to show off more stuff about Yoshi, or if there's Labo integration or something, they'd wait until a little bit
Labo's
later
out.
on when Labo is exactly, it's already out. And that's another game that, like, I think Fire Emblem and Smash, they appeal to, like, you know, the hardcore player. But then if you've got something like Yoshi, which is obviously for families, that's great to have later on in the year for the holiday, maybe alongside like a new Labo set or something. And that would make sense because the other Labo sets are coming in spring. Or when is Giant Robot? Giant Robot's, is that April too or no?
Yeah, it's April.
Okay, so they're both April. Yeah, so like
Yep.
that would make sense that those would be out, and then they'd have new toy cons for you know, for later in the year. And then again, it would make sense if Yoshi has some type of Labo integration to have that launch alongside a new toy con.
I almost wonder if Yoshi's going to suffer the same fate as Woolly World, where it first appeared in one form and then went off the map for a long time and then came back in a completely new form.
Wouldn't that be something?
'Cause, yeah, it's almost been a year since we've heard about it.
Although, wouldn't that be fitting if it does incorporate Labo, which is all about turning cardboard into something else you wouldn't expect?
Right.
I guess
I
that's
feel
true.
like it will.
The ultimate tie-in.
Yeah.
One thing that wasn't shown that's coming out this month is Blastoise in Pokken. We didn't see a single whisper of
right.
that, and he's out in, what, a week or two? I think he's the 20-something.
Weird.
Something like that, yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because wasn't one of those rumors right before this Direct that we were going to get a little mini teaser of Blastoise and then a teaser of another character?
Oh,
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this actually reminds me of that person who supposedly leaked the Nintendo Direct date, who also tweeted a bunch of other announcements that would be in the Direct, who...
And none of them came true.
None of them came true, right.
Yeah,
So,
no Fire Emblem, no Mario Odyssey DLC.
Yep.
It's
yeah,
none of
which...
it's here.
I'm
No
disappointed.
Ever
I mean,
Oasis HD.
yeah, unfortunately, the Luigi's Mansion announcement wasn't nearly as exciting as the one he had put in his rumors or predictions. So I wonder now, like, if he had just like created like 20 different Twitter accounts, all guessing different direct dates, so it could just
Maybe.
point to one being the right one whenever it came up. But yeah, so that's a little bit disappointing. So I do miss the lack of Odyssey DLC, even though I would have been surprised had they announced it this soon, given the balloon update just came out. But I do hope that's still coming. So
I will say, though, another thing that was brought up in those leaks that actually would have fit perfectly with all the stuff that was announced today was that Ever Oasis Switch port. If that was announced with all the other stuff that came out during this Direct, with all these ports of games and stuff, it would have totally made sense. So I'm wondering if that was something that was sort of pulled last minute, or I don't really know.
good point.
It would fit in, but who knows if it's actually true or not, because it seems like such an odd choice.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up here, do you guys think this was enough to sustain Nintendo to E3 and perhaps even a bit beyond? Because we know, like, it seemed like we were reaching a boiling point again where people were starting to get antsy. It's like, where's that Nintendo Direct? And we finally got it. So do you think this is enough to carry them through E3 or to E3?
Yeah, I think that the third-party support is pretty spectacular. This is the best we've had since the GameCube, and it's arguably better than the GameCube. We have a PS4 Crash game coming here. We have Dark Souls. We have all this other stuff, indie games, Undertale. Even Xbox One doesn't have Undertale, so that's a huge get for the Switch. And then Smash, that's as big as it gets. So this is a pretty damn good Direct.
Yeah, I think Smash will help people, like, wait. Like, they're like, oh, okay, we know our big game. We can wait now and mind ourselves with the little stuff that comes out in the meantime. But I think this is a good lineup. There's a lot of really fun stuff here. Like, especially if you missed out on it on the Wii U. Hyrule Warriors will take up so much of your time. Dark Souls will obviously take so much of your time. If John's anything to go by, we got a pretty decent RPG with South Park. Detective Pikachu is coming, of course. Kirby. I think there's enough here. Like, it's maybe not the biggest stuff, but enough small stuff to just keep you playing and keep you interested until you get to those big games, which I think is a good way to handle it. It's not like the desert that Wii U was, where it wasn't anything. You weren't getting big games, small games, nothing. It was just like nothing, and then here's a game.
Right.
Type thing. So we're not in that state, which is good.
Yeah, we honestly have a surplus. I feel like even right now, if you go to the eShop, there's so much stuff still to play through. Dude, there is genuinely too much. I still haven't beaten Owlboy, and I've loved what I played. I mean, I've beaten Bayonetta 2, but I still wanted to go beat Bayonetta 1, so I want to go finish that. I mean, there's so much stuff still coming, and it's already out that it's like, I don't know. We're looking at an unprecedented Nintendo right now in the best possible way. I love it.
We really are. Like, I still don't get the complaints that there like not being anything to play, because there is so much to play. There's too much to play. And these announcements today only add to that, because there are a lot of games here that I think are going to appeal to a lot of people, including me. Like, I've been interested in some of these games, like Dark Souls. I just never got around to playing because they're on other platforms. But with the Switch being as convenient as it is, I might finally actually play these games. Well, I think that about covers it. So, and again, if you want even more, make sure to check out part 1, where we discussed even more about, where we talked even longer than we did here, just about Smash Brothers for the Switch. In the meantime, though, where can people find you at, Roger?
You can find me at RogersBase on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on Instagram. I uploaded my live reaction to today's Nintendo Direct, obviously, that's up there. You can see me die at the Smash Brothers announcement. I uploaded that as a separate reaction, so you don't have to sit through everything else. And I also do, like, One Piece videos and anime videos on top of the gaming videos, so check it out.
And how about you, John? Where can people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Nomcoms. I'm also on a podcast with Nintendo, and I'm occasionally lounging around here every now and then.
And of course, make sure to stay tuned to Game Explained for lots more on all of this content coming up, and everything else at Nintendo as well. Catch you later. Bye.